No role plays, just real. Chris and Lorenzo share 4 decades of combined experience to help you become a more effective leader.
We've never really, as a workforce, spent a lot of time on making sure we're developing good leaders.
We'll be able to share stories, experience, mistakes, failures, successes.
This is Hacking Your Leadership.
Welcome to Hacking Your Leadership. I'm Chris.
And I'm Lorenzo.
And Lorenzo, on this episode, I want to talk about something that I saw from John Maxwell and his team. And I thought it was important to discuss because I think that, after our 2-month-long discussion about leadership theory, we talked about what we can do as leaders or how we can kind of influence our own leadership style or where it's coming from. I kind of want to address it from the other side too, which is that, when you do these things right, why is it that a person would choose to listen to you or follow you? And if you have that kind of relationship with them, if you have that kind of resonation with your people and they're following you, it's because of one of these reasons. And the way that Maxwell puts it, I think is fantastic. And we'll post a link to this image where he talks about the 5 levels of leadership. And basically they are that people follow you because they have to, because they want to, because of what you've done for the organization, because of what you've done for them, and because of who you are. The qualities that you have as an individual, almost like values and respect. And he positions this as almost a Maslow hierarchy, and that as you move through this, you each one is either stronger or better or more sustaining, more self-sustaining than the one before it. And I'm curious what your thoughts on this are, because it's a very simple way of putting things. But if you think about why people do what they do or the motivations people have, I think it really nails it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that overall it makes a lot of sense. And we've talked about it before on the podcast, just around the idea of are people following you because they have to or because they want to? Is it more of like a soldier or an apostle? We've talked a lot about that. And I like this idea because it kind of builds upon why people choose to follow you. But I also see it as you can kind of jump through some of these things. So as an example, like if you meet somebody for the first time, or if somebody who you don't know that's not your direct leader, but they do something for you very quickly with no expectation of return or that type of thing, that could be an attraction point where somebody will want to follow you, and they may skip over even knowing who you are or having a relationship or understanding kind of the work that you do. So I think that these to me make a lot of sense, but I also believe that in many instances, it's not that you kind of have to start at the bottom of the pyramid and work your way up. There are things that you must have, I believe, in certain areas to kind of build upon your period, but build upon the pyramid. But I also see the opportunity here to jump around if necessary, based upon the interactions that you have with leaders.
Yeah, I think I kind of partly agree with that you can very quickly move through things. If you have a good boss, there are bosses I've had where I never follow them because I have to, like it starts out with them. They were just a nice person on the first day we met. So at the very least, I started out at level 2 of 5, which is that I wanted to follow them. Like they were a nice person. They seemed like a good person. We didn't necessarily have the track record for me to say that I respected them as an individual and their values and these, kind of this, I was ready to espouse everything they stood for and what they were saying to me and become an apostle of them. But I started out with at least thinking, yeah, this is a nice person. I have no reason not to want to trust that what they're saying is the way to do things or the best way to do things and to go from there. I don't think it's very easy to jump around from a standpoint of, once you get to a level where you are following somebody because of what they've done for you. Like you can see that they have a track record of putting you before themselves. So they give you advice that helps you out with your own career, independently of what it might do for them. They don't seem to have any skin in the game besides that they genuinely want to see you succeed. If you get to that level with a leader, dropping back to where you're following them because you have to means that they've done something. Like something has changed, or you were wrong about them to begin with, or something changed about their values or the way they did things. It's real hard to come back from that. Like it's easy to move up the scale, but once you've moved back, I think it's really hard to move up again. It's one of those things where a lot of it has to do with trust. and you can, hopefully your people don't go into a relationship with you as a leader distrusting you if they've never met you before. But some of them might, because they just distrust leadership in general, and it takes some harder work on your part to kind of break through that. But breaking through that, or getting to the level where they trust you and there's a mutual respect to where you can move up this level, it's virtually impossible, if not impossible, to move back up that ladder again if something has knocked you down a rung or two. And so I agree that you can skip certain levels or spend less time in certain levels. I don't know that I can necessarily see myself moving up and down.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great point, because really what we're talking about is kind of the context of a leader and their people, and looking at this pyramid, it's kind of starting with, if you're a new leader and people follow you because of the position, or they may not be choosing to, but they kind of have to begin with. Then you layer on top of that kind of the relationship, and to your point, like building a little bit of that relationship. Now it's like, oh, okay, cool. Like Chris is cool to work for. I don't mind working for Chris. Like he's pretty chill. He's laid back. He listens. He's helping me with things. And then I see, oh, well, Chris is helping to move the organization or the team forward, or how we're doing things is becoming easier, more efficient. I appreciate that. I'm more apt to do the things that Chris is asking me to do, maybe without questioning it, right?
A track record, a little bit of a track record.
Exactly, right. Yeah. And then you get into the people development. Now, this is what Chris has done directly for me. Well, I really appreciate that. So I'm going to continue to kind of put my trust within Chris and enjoy it. And then we get to the point where I'm learning from you, I'm growing from you, I'm taking some of the things that you've taught me, I'm applying them in my own leadership. Like there's a lot of those types of things that happen in there. So I think in the context of leadership, you're absolutely correct, where it's much easier to go up. But if you end up taking steps back, where now if I'm questioning our relationship, right? If what I see you doing is maybe like not what may be best for the team or the organization, or like that's I totally agree with you that like coming back from that can be really, really difficult. I also think, though, in the larger, bigger picture, and kind of where my brain went to immediately was like, think of those big motivational speakers around the world, the Tony Robbins and people like that, the Simon Sineks, right? There are a lot of people that follow them because of what they represent and kind of the vision that they have. With they don't have to. There's no relationship directly. Right? They may not have seen what they've done for them or their team specifically. Maybe they feel like their content has helped them in their own development. But like, again, we're not building upon the pyramid here. So I see that as that there's leadership that can happen kind of in the larger space that is not built upon this pyramid. But I think this is really, really good for when you're talking about a leader with direct reports, a leader that is leading a specific team, and how they build that type of leadership within that team itself.
Right. Yeah. No. That's a great point. If you're talking about from an influencer space, this is not about that. This is about an actual. There is a direct reporting, meaning underlying all of these things. Like you could be following somebody because of the qualities they have. You respect them completely. They've done a lot for you. They've done a lot for your organization. You have a great relationship with them. There's trust. All of that can be the case. And you may have to follow them because of their position and who you are. You actually report to them. So it's you, just because you move up this scale doesn't mean that you eliminate the lower rung. It just means that isn't the reason behind why you chose to listen to what they had to say or do what they asked you to do. At any time, I can listen to Tony Robbins and Simon Sinek all I want to. At the end of the day, if I don't have to do they're not telling me to do anything. They're giving me advice, and I can listen to it if I want to. I don't have to. But if I decide that I no longer ever want to listen to them again, it's not going to directly negatively impact my career from a standpoint of like, oh, I didn't do what I was told. And so I think that the importance of this scale is in that even though underlying all of this is that they have to follow you because you're their boss and they report to you, they've chosen to do it anyway, regardless of that. So it's not that it goes away; it's that it doesn't matter. And that's really important, because if there isn't they have to underneath it to begin with, it's almost not as consequential, right? If people don't have to follow me at all, I'm not their boss. I don't have a direct reporting relationship. I'm just giving them advice. I'm a peer of them. but they're choosing to, that's a great thing to do. But if they're doing it even though they have to, that's almost an even bigger deal, because now they've moved on from the they have to, and they moved into that they actually want to. They've chosen to have that kind of a relationship with you. The other thing that I want to bring up here, and I think it's really important, and it's because I think it might be obvious to some of our listeners, but I want to make sure that it's very clear. This is not when in the context of being asked to do something that may go against your own personal values. Meaning, I think 50 years ago, there are people who would execute whatever the strategy was or what the leader was telling them to do, even if it went against their own personal values. And then you have a direct relationship of they're doing what they're following you because they have to. Like you maintain that. And I think 50 years ago, you could get a high level of production, of engagement, and of the quality of work out of people who stayed in the they have to sphere, with you for the entirety of your work relationship with them, even if you were being asked to do things that were against your personal values. I don't think that's possible today. I think that there are very, very few people who will do what you ask them to do as a leader if it violates their own personal values or whatever they value from an ethics standpoint, or just their own personal work-life balance. All those things they're becoming more fleeting. And so to even go into this 5 levels of leadership, you want to start by assuming that people aren't being asked to do things that are unethical or that go against their personal values. I think that's a totally different conversation.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's the whole kind of disclaimer that should be put in a lot of these types of ideas and theories. That's this only applies to situations and teams where we're not talking about things like integrity and values and things like that, because that just destroys everything. There's no foundation at that point. There has to be this commonality where I kind of think a little bit of some of the people that we've talked to in the military and things like that, or even kind of cubicle office workers, where you kind of have these team leads, or you have an officer in charge where I don't know them, I don't know how they lead, but I know that they have a responsibility to lead people, and I have a responsibility to get this job done. So there's already this baseline of at least respect and understanding that this is the job that everybody has, and then building upon that. It is it's how that relationship starts to grow and how those interactions start to happen, which makes me think about we talk a lot about these ideas and interactions and relationship building and things like that, and we never really talk about necessarily is timeline, because that's really hard to figure out. The easy answer here is saying, well, it depends. It depends on the individual. It depends on the leader. It depends on how much access they have to them or how much time they spend together. But I don't know. I kind of feel like there is some element of a timeline. There is, in the world of retail leadership, I have my own timelines in my head that I've learned over time around this is about how much time you have to establish yourself and your brand as a new leader with a team. This is about how much time you have to create some change that's going to be some big change as far as what's happened before to what's happening now. There's time that you have to reestablish expectations of certain things. So there's kind of what I look at when it comes to things that I've experienced in my leadership. But for you, are there things that you think of when it comes to time to build upon a pyramid like this, or how long does it take, or how many interactions? What would that look like in regards to your thoughts in building upon this? Getting to the kind of the top of the pyramid in regards to leadership.
Yeah, I absolutely love this question, because I think one of the things that I've been, I don't want to say guilty of, but I've done incorrectly over the years, and hopefully less so now, is this kind of assumption that the team is one body. The team is a whole thing, as opposed to made up of individual people. And here's what I mean by that. You talk about timeline. Well, in my head, if I am leading a team of 30 people, and hopefully it's, in terms of direct reports, hopefully it's much less than that if you're a leader of people. But if you lead a team that encompasses maybe multiple layers of leadership, and there are 30 or 40 people on that team, I may have 20 interactions a day with that team, with different members of that team. And over the course of a month, that translates to 5 days a week. That translates to hundreds and hundreds of interactions with the team. But there might be one or two members of that team where over that month there were only 2 interactions. Not hundreds and hundreds. And if out of the 500 interactions I had with the team, meaning with an individual of that team, if 498 of them are 100% positive and they move the relationship forward, but 2 of them were not positive and they happen to be with the same person, then I could make the mistake of thinking that, wow, this team is starting to follow me because of what I've done for them. They're starting to respect me and my values. But there's that one person I can't seem to get through to. Well, maybe over the course of the last month, I've spent a total of 80 seconds with them. And it was 2 40-second interactions, both of which didn't go well because of whatever. Either they were having a bad day or I was having a bad moment or I was caught up in something else and it didn't come off the right way. Whatever it was, I think it's really important for leaders to remember that the relationship they have with their team, and I'm doing air quotes here, doesn't exist. There's no such thing as a relationship with your team. There's a relationship with each individual member of your team. And you can say that as a whole, that's a great relationship. But it's only as strong as whatever that weakest link is. You have to look at each individual person. I look at, it's like when a person goes to a doctor and they have a family member who's like about to go under surgery and they go, like, doc, what are the odds of success here? And hopefully the doctor says something like, that doesn't matter. Because I could tell you that the odds of success are 99%. But you know what? The 1% where it didn't go well, they don't care about the 99 that did well. All they care about is the fact they lost a loved one. And if I tell you that it's a 1% chance of success, you know what? The person that got through it and that 1%, they don't care that it was 99%. They just know that they have that loved one still there. It's the exact same thing. This cannot be aggregated for anything other than if you're trying to measure the engagement of your team or a survey, or trying to figure out, how the workforce is moving as a whole. I'm not saying those things aren't important, but you as the leader have to have a relationship with each person. And that timeline is based on the amount of minutes that you spend interacting with that person. And over the course of a year, depending on who that person is and how much time you spend with them, you could have people who you spend hours and hours with a week. And you could have people who you spend only a few minutes with a month. And your relationship with them is going to be based on what their perception of that little bit or lot bit of time is that you've been able to spend time with them on. So don't make the mistake of thinking that because it's great with a lot of people, that it's great with everybody.
I love that. And with that, it brings us to this episode's 1 Minute Hack. But first, a few words from our sponsors.
The 1 Minute Hack.
All right, for this episode's 1 Minute Hack, here's what I want you to do. I want you to look at this 5 levels of leadership image, which we'll put, again, there's a link to it in the description of the podcast. Look at this, and then I want you to look at the people who report directly to you on your team, and I want you to assign them to one of these 5 levels. Why you think that they follow you. They will fall into one of these 5 levels. Once you've assigned that, I also want you to look at the people who you report up to, whether you have 1 leader or 10 leaders that you technically have to report up to. I want you to think about why you would do what those leaders say and where you fall on that. The lower that you are on that scale and the lower that you have individual people on that scale for you, those are the relationships that you need to work on. Those are the relationships that could get better and that you can absolutely work on making better. And so if there are people who are not, at least to the level of number 2, which is they want to follow you. And this could be that they're just brand new people, that you've not known them for a long time. You want to be at least there. If there are people that fall into that tier 1, that they're just following you because they have to, or you're following somebody because you have to, spend some time focusing on that relationship. Sit down and have conversations with those people. Sometimes clearing the air can make a big difference in terms of moving just to that second level. And then it'll be amazing how quickly you can move up this scale once you get over that first hurdle.
Yeah, I think it's a great 1 minute hack. And that's what I like about it is like considering where you are in this with some of the people that you report to, but also then considering your people. And then being able to look to see like what is the work that needs to be done. Like I love that idea of like, you know what, maybe there's just relationship building that needs to happen. Let's start there. Maybe there's better knowledge I need to have around, like what exactly is the value that I bring to the organization, or how am I defining the value that I bring to my people to have them be into that space. Like maybe you don't talk enough about those types of things, or provide spaces to have the dialogue to talk about those types of things. And I think, to your point, clearing the air and just having some of these conversations, I think, could be really helpful in moving people, kind of up the pyramid, and also to helping to move yourself up the pyramid in regards to how you feel about those that you work for, because that can be very empowering and clarifying in the work that you do and the confidence that you can have every day.
Right. I completely agree with that. There was a person a long time ago in my career who I couldn't seem to get through to from a standpoint of I was their leader. And what I didn't realize, what finally did happen, is I decided to clear the air. And what I found out was that the very first interaction I had with this person, I wasn't even their leader at the time. We were just peers. But the very first interaction I had with this person didn't go well. And it wasn't even a long interaction. And that was something that stuck with them for a long time, even though it was like water off a duck's back for me. I moved on from it very quickly. They didn't. And then so when I became in the leadership role, there was this standoffishness, and I was stuck into position one with them. They were following me because they had to, which means the engagement and the productivity and the quality of work was not great. And it really took clearing that air to figure out that's what happened was just a single interaction a long time ago. In this case, it was more than a year earlier. But again, clearing that air allowed us to have a good relationship going forward. But that's what it took.
Absolutely. And with that, it brings us to the end of this episode. This is Hacking Your Leadership. I'm Lorenzo.
And I'm Chris.
And we'll talk to you all next time.